3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Welcome to the Remote Photography Podcast. In this episode, I speak with model Fonic official about her remote photography experiences. Enjoy the podcast. Hi Francesca, thanks for doing the podcast. If people don't know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
So I'm Francesca Wilborn, aka Fonic Official on Instagram. I'm from Nottingham. I've been doing modelling now for 7 years. But in that time, I've been doing photography. I've also done catwalks, like fashion shows, music videos. So I like dipping into different creative genres as much as I can.
So you said you go by the model name of Fonic. How did you come up with that?
So when I was studying photography at college, one of my friends used to nickname me Sonic quite a lot, and I didn't even know why.
Right.
But when I started to do a bit of experimenting, like modelling in front of the camera, because I used to do a lot of tech, I used to practice with the camera in the studio,
Mm-hmm.
and some of my college friends always use other students to practice lighting on them.
Yeah.
So I was trying to practice modelling as well, and then I was like, oh, my friend called me Sonic, and I was like, oh, what about Fonic? Because my first name is Francesca, the F, and I wanted it to relate to the F sound because I think it was a bit unique. So I just started saying Fonic. It just really clicked straight away that I just wanted Fonic. I felt like it was something that was just speaking to me. You know, when you have that symphony a little bit, that is the one. Then I just started there, I'm going to use that.
And then you had to put an official on the end just to make it official.
Yes. I think it doesn't sound right if it's just Fonic.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit boring, but I was just like, oh, Fonic official, because it gives it a bit of a ring, a little bit.
And it's memorable. It's memorable as well, because obviously if people are going to look for you, they're going, oh, what's that model's name? And then they're going to go, oh, yeah, Fonic. And then it's kind of a good search thing as well on the internet to look for.
It's quite easy as well, but it sounds quite funky, unique.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to use just my name, because I just feel like it's not really a modelling name. It's just my real name. I just wanted something a bit away from my real name.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say you're boring, because having done a remote shoot with you, it's you are not boring.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so when we did our remote shoot at Neon Dreams, when we were recording this, it's about a week ago. Was that your first experience with remote shoots, or had you done some before already?
That remote shoot was my third time doing it.
Okay.
My first remote shoot was at PGD Studio, and I've never ever done it before. So it was a different experience for me, because I like doing different things. I hate just doing the same thing all over again. But the experience, it was so difficult. It was so it's probably the difficult thing I have ever done in my life. But it's good, because I'd rather have a challenge than just finding it easier, because it's a screen, isn't there? You can see the person as well, because they're doing webcam, but also it shows you what you see through the camera. So you have to be in that box. You always have to keep looking, and sometimes I look more at the screen than I do at the lens, and I should be looking at the lens more.
Well, no, I found some models treat say the computer screen as a mirror, so they can do adjustments. So sometimes the photographer might say, oh, you're slightly out of frame, or some might just go, oh yeah, I can see myself. So that's why I tend to wait for the model to kind of you can see she's looking at the computer screen, so she's trying to get herself into the frame. And then once you see the model kind of stay still, you kind of, okay, she's in the frame, and then that's when you kind of take the picture.
I think that's one of the positive things about remote shoots, because it's I always like when there's a mirror on a studio shoot, because I can look at myself is this pose right? Is my facial expression right? Yeah. So it does help in the fact you can see yourself and what looks well in the camera, instead of feeling nervous is this right? Is this am I doing it right? I don't know. because sometimes when it comes to posing, sometimes you like your creativeness just comes out, even if it looks like a weird pose. But then looking at the remote shoot, it's like, right, I know this is right now because I can see myself.
Yeah. So it's almost like you're seeing the back of cameras. If you were like an in-person shoot, like the photographer would show you the back of the camera, you can go, oh yeah, I can see what I'm doing. But now you're kind of seeing it in real time rather than waiting for the photographer to show you the back of the cam.
Yeah, I think that's what is so useful. I love that, but like getting into the frame of the camera is so difficult because sometimes you lean on the right more than you do just right in the middle and staying in that.
And everything's
spot.
mirrored for you as well, because if you're going to the left, you see yourself go to the right, and it kind of gets a bit confusing. So.
Yeah, because sometimes when you go to the right, the camera's like you can move into the left, aren't you? And you're like, oh god, I need to move just right in the middle.
So you mentioned the PG Studios. What was it? Did they approach you to do remote shoots, or was it just part of the studio day that you were going to do there?
So who owns PGD Studio is Gary, and I remember because I did a group shoot then, and he was talking to me about like, oh, have you ever done remote shoots before? And I said to him like, I haven't. In my like nearly 7 years, I was just like, I've never done it before, and he was just like, would you like to? And I was like, yes, I would love to. It's just like I've heard it so many times on social media and models are doing it, and I'm like, what is it like? So I just had a fair crack of the whip with it.
So you've come to do remote photography really late, as in literally after the pandemic. You've only started to do it. You didn't like even look into it, say at the beginning, maybe as an option.
No, even in lockdown. I think in lockdown, I really looked into more of who I am as a model.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about remote shoots back then. But that's when I got into my cosplay and alternative a bit more. You know, like before the lockdown, I was like, you know, where you have this like creative block and you're like, who am I?
Yeah.
Like, who am I in the modeling industry? And you just start to think like, because I remember when I was a little kid, I was just like, I want to be a unicorn. I want to be a fairy. I want to be like this like princess of like explosion of colour. Like, and then I started getting into who I am, like personality wise, and what I loved. And I can't, you know what, lockdown was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me because I wouldn't find who I am.
Yeah, because you're kind of self-reflecting. You like looked at what you'd done and went, okay, what can I've got the opportunity to look at myself and do something else.
Yeah.
And that say after that first shoot, because I've seen some of the results where like, I've noticed you can balance on really high heel boots really effectively. When you started with practice, so I'm guessing there's been a few falls and stuff. But
the weirdest thing, I haven't really, you know, for like breaking something like in my ankle or anything like that. I have tripped, but luckily I've like been composed. Like I just stand back up still.
But like I say, when you saw the results come back from that, what was it, weekend or was it just a day you did there? Did you think, oh well, hold on, this is something I can get into now?
I think it's so useful. I loved it because like you get to know photographers around the world. Yeah. So if people can't really travel to you, they can use remote shoot to actually shoot you and actually have a proper conversation with you. And I think that's probably the pro of it, because sometimes we can't travel. There could be like money crisis or anything like that. So it really helps for photographers and models to communicate, even if they're overseas.
So I just looking at your Instagram, I noticed you've shot in Neon Dreams before. Had Natasha, who runs Neon Dreams, had she said, look, you're gonna come and do a model day, do you want to do remotes? And like you kind of went, okay, let's put this in, because obviously that would have been before you'd done the remotes with PGD. So were you kind of like, oh, let's see how this goes, because I don't know the results from PGD yet?
Natasha actually didn't tell me about remote shoot until I had when all the studio day was sold out.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, as long as it's not like a one-to-one all the time, it can be just remote shoots. But I was just like, let's go for it. I'm excited. And that was with you, John.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was the first one of the first couple of hours, wasn't it? You were there. So it was like, okay, she's jumping straight into remote shoots.
I loved it because we were just like having a laugh and messing about and stuff. But I think that's when you get the best like shots, when you relax, being yourself and just having a giggle. It should be like that, like just being yourself. Because I feel like people now in this industry, people take themselves a bit too seriously, and that's when people don't like feel comfortable with them. They have to like proper just be in their own calmness and just like have a laugh.
Yeah, where I knew straight away within 5 minutes, like you didn't take yourself seriously, because there was a few things I won't repeat on there that you said, and I went, okay, she don't take herself seriously, so she's posing away like a trooper, but she can have a laugh as well. But it was like, cool, right, there we go. So that's totally fine.
I've had a shoot before and it was really quiet and I felt so awkward. Like I felt like I just couldn't even say anything because it was so quiet. I don't like when people don't talk. It puts me on edge, man.
Well, no, I've heard that before. So, well, not surprisingly, sometimes models do a shoot and for whatever reason the photographer hardly says anything or shows them hardly the back of camera, and then they think, oh, well, has it been a good shoot? Has it not? Because there's been no communication, especially with remotes. You need that communication because, like I say, you might need to tell the model to move slightly or adjust it because of the lighting. So if you're not talking to the model and the model's like, yes, you can look at herself on the computer screen, but there might be something the photographer's looking to get a shot and the model's not psychic. So you kind of need to, there needs to be discussions.
Exactly. Like, I love when I've done the remote shoot before and they tell me how to pose and stuff what they really want, and it really helps me because sometimes I just go with the flow.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what's comfortable for me. But when someone tells you what they want, it's kind of like, oh, thank God, like they know what they want, like and do the pose what they like have an idea of. So there's like no pressure on that aspect.
Yeah, because to be fair, I never shot anyone who does like alternative cosplay, so it was a new thing for me. So
I hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, I did, but it's one of those things. In the last couple of years, I've started to do mood boards, so it's like, yeah, we're not trying to copy the poses, but this is kind of the feel. And like when you messaged me before, you kind of did, oh yeah, you've kind of gone for an anime kind of vibe and stuff, and you went, oh, I love that. And it's like, well, look at the images and stuff you'd put out before. It's like, okay, that's the kind of stuff she does, so let's play to her strengths. And obviously you went, oh, I've got these outfits and this, and like you'd walk off camera, change outfit, come back on, and it's at the end it was like I'd shot 3 different people because you could change your look so quickly.
I think that's what I love about cosplay, because you don't know what you're going to get.
Well, yeah,
like,
exactly.
You don't know what person you're going to get. You could, because I always have different characters I do is very different, like different behaviors.
Yeah.
Like it could be like a very powerful face, and then it could be elegant and innocent, and I've got all the names to them as well. Not all of them, but I've got certain characters I've named because I like creating my own characters.
So the 3 ones we did you name them or you haven't named them yet?
So the black bob wig.
Yeah.
I like Noir. There's something about Noir I love the name of.
Okay.
Noir, like very like noir.
Fonic Noir, yeah.
The purple one I called it Poise, like Poise.
Poise.
And then Poise, yeah.
Okay.
And then the pink I called her Cherry.
Cherry, okay.
Cherry.
Good to know. Now I know what characters I took pictures of. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you've done a few remote shoots now. Obviously, the in person is going to be more quicker, more fluid. Did you find that when you did the few remotes, it was more slowed down, and it was like, okay, we're trying to get the best we can in camera, or did you prefer that, or did you prefer like it's when you're like going through poses and stuff in person, and you get more creative, or did you find like the remotes slowness being a bit more creative?
I think I do prefer in person because I feel like it's more quick on. I don't mean to be really quick. Yeah. It's just, I think that's how my flow is. I like going pose after pose. With the remote shoots, it is very slow, but it takes patience, but also it takes time for you to like think of what pose next to go into. But I like posing like dance. I feel like it's very danceful.
Well, and I think a lot of models they used to, like, as soon as they hear the shutter go, it's like move on to the next pose. And where remote, sometimes you're
Yeah.
waiting for the photographer to get the live view to come back on, so they can see that you've moved. So it's kind of slightly slowed down than it would be to in person.
Oh, I've had so many photographers saying that, like, oh, can you go back to this pose? I'm like, yes, I'm really sorry, because I always apologise. I'm very sorry if I'm being too quick, but they understand.
So at this time, you've done like a handful of remotes. I think you mentioned it earlier about the computer screen, but did you find it like helped you? Like, say you said earlier about having a mirror on the shoot in person. Did you find seeing like, oh, you can see yourself on the computer screen? So it kind of made it easier to get your head around that it was the photographer wasn't in the studio, they were somewhere else, but they're kind of there, so you can kind of like adjust your posing to fit in with the screen.
Yeah, I find it very intimidating, to be honest. You know, on remote shoot, because you're not really face to face.
Yeah.
Not really, only on like a webcam.
Yeah, yeah.
I just all I can do is try my best and just like go through with the challenge instead of like feeling a bit more pressure and feeling a bit intimidated or nerve wracking, because sometimes you're going to feel that when you first go on a remote shoot, and then when you get used to it, everything just seems like you could chill a bit more. You know what's coming.
Okay, so we've talked about the pace of remote shoots. Like, say, let's take our shoot for example. Ours was 2 hours. Say in person, you might get through. I'm just putting a number out the air. 6 looks on a 2 hour shoot in person. Whereas maybe on the remote, you might only get 3. Did you find like, okay, this has let me focus, especially for you, focus on the character, the outfit?
Yes, I remember at PGD studio, there was only half an hour slots, so I had to like at least go through 2 to 3 outfits change, and I don't know how I'm going to do this in 30 minutes, because when you do pose it, the time goes so quick. Yeah. It does, which on a 2 hour like shoot, for a remote shoot, it's so chilled, so relaxed, and you can get at least like 4 cosplay characters in the shoot, and I feel more laid back, and also you can get yourself prepared more. But when it's 30 minutes, that's when the pressure's on. It's like I need to literally organize everything before I do remote shoots, like before the slot starts to happen.
But did you say, like, again with our shoot, did you find me sending you the mood board kind of gave you, oh, okay, I've got an outfit that kind of would work with this, and another one, so you kind of had a few looks already in mind?
See what I mean? I'm so glad you gave me like a Pinterest of ideas, because it really helps my mind and my creativity to like a wild spring, because it gets me all organised and also prepared for like, you know, what your idea, what you want from the shoot. So it really helps me.
Well, yeah, it was like because especially with the pink haired one, there was like a shot where I saw a model was like holding a guitar behind her, and it was like, oh, hold on, Natasha's got like a guitar on one of her sets. Maybe we can get something like that. And like you saw the picture when you tried to do that the way it was in the picture, and you went, no, hold on, let me flip around. So you kind of did it the other way around, and you went, okay, this works better, because you were like trying to find how it works for you rather than trying to copy the image itself. You went, okay, let me work this out. And then we did a few shots with the guitar, and it was like, as soon as you had the prop, you were like, yeah, okay, I can pose like this, I can pose like that. So again, it's getting your mind going, okay, I'm not just posing there by myself, I've got a prop to be able to like make it a bit more weird, a bit more funky and stuff like that. Yeah.
See what I mean? I do love props. I do love using props, but it all depends what it is. Guitars, love them. Yeah. If it's like a telephone with a vintage style, awesome. But when it's something else like a crystal ball or like a card, like, you know, like a packet of cards, and you're holding like a queen or something, I'm not really a prop type of girl, because I feel like I can't really pose the way I want to, if that makes sense. I can't really go into my potential as much, so it does kind of stop me from actually reaching my potential that I want on a shoot. But when with like the guitar, you can do a lot with the guitar. You can like bend yourself around the guitar, and is it wicked?
It's not, I'm going to say that it's strange, but it's like I've always assume the models, like when you give them a prop, it's like, oh, okay, it gives me something to do with my hands or something else. So there's more
Yeah, I
variety.
hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it. Definitely when it's small objects, I can't stand it. But when it's like guitar, it's so handy. I love guitars. I'm a rock girl. Anything with guitar or anything with rock, I'm in it for the kill. Or a phone. Like, it's so easy to pose with a phone or a guitar, but when it's something else, I do not understand. I don't know. I'm like literally, my mind's off topic straight away.
So what happened when Natasha started putting gels and prisms in front of the camera? Did you think, oh, what's going on now? It's like, this is getting weird.
Yeah, see, me, I love stuff like that because it's going to be more fantasy, like more like sci-fi, and that's what I'm into. I love when things get a bit weird and wacky because then you're going to get the best results.
Yeah, because I think you started looking at some of the prisms ones, which I haven't released yet at the time of recording, and you were like, oh, hold on, that looks kind of cool, because there was one, it was almost like, it was on the purple set, you were almost like it was a card, because you were kind of split in two, but like one was going one way, one was going the other way, and it just reminded me of like a queen on playing cards, as it were.
There was a one where like my hands looked like a W.
Yeah.
From the reflection, and I was like, oh my god, that looked mint. I love that so much.
Well, we have to thank Natasha and Neon Dreams for that.
I agree. I love when you work with different creatives because you don't know what you're gonna get, and also they might teach you something new about photography or modeling or what's handy. So it really, I just love talking to photographers. I think that's my main thing. What I love on the shoot, I just love communicating like their experience or what they've learned. So it's not really just about my modeling, it's about just getting in touch with these creatives. And because I definitely want to get into the photography part when I'm like 35, when I've actually finished modeling, you know, at that age where like you can't do modeling anymore, you have to. So yeah, it really helps me to get into what I could do from a photography point of view.
Well, and it's nice when you like get to old age, can go, oh, look at me back then. It was like I was posing on high heels and doing this and that. It's kind of a nice way to look back at the world after that. It's
timeless. I've always said it's very timeless. Like if you're like 70, you can look back like, oh my god, I've achieved so much. I looked amazing. And it's just like you just don't regret things as well. Like you could just look back like I don't regret anything one bit because I've done that.
Do you find, as because you do kind of cosplay alternative, do you find that as giving you like a niche, or is it like it's harder to book shoots because people maybe sometimes, like me, I didn't shot cosplay, so I was like, okay, this is different, but I'm always willing to try something different to see if it works. And like I thought you were the best person to try to shoot cosplay first of all, because it's like you kind of know what you're doing, so let me give it a shot.
You.
But do you find it's easy for you to book shoots, or do you find it's more because everyone thinks of you more as an alternate cosplay model, that it's a bit harder to book shoots?
You know what? That's a really good question. I love this answer so much for this question. I find it more actually easier to book shoots, weirdly enough, because when I was actually like, you know, not cosplayed like I would say 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It was so hard to book shoots a little bit because it felt like people didn't take you serious then.
Yeah.
Also, I would say when you're quite normal, you're kind of like everyone else. And I'm not that person. So when I got into cosplay, like I found my niche.
Yeah.
Like I knew what I wanted. And I just love showing my cosplay through my personality because that's what I do. I represent the misfits, people who felt like they can't belong, people who felt like they was different and like can't be with the crowd. Because I always feel like you should love yourself. I feel like being unique and very special is what sets you apart from everyone else. But yeah, with shoes, it's really, I feel like people take me seriously now. And I don't know why. I think it's probably because I have my own niche. Do you know what I mean? I'm not like everyone else. And even with poses too, like doing things that people hasn't done before. I know people's done cosplay, but in the modelling industry, people really hasn't, if you think about it.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be an inspiration of people who wants to get into that.
Yeah, because I'm just scrolling through your Instagram and I'm going like a little bit backwards. And like you say, when you're just doing normal modelling, shall we say, you kind of blend in with everyone else. You kind of have to find something that works for you. Like you say, once you kind of had to look at yourself in lockdown, you went, well, hold on, I like doing cosplay, so let me do this, and then you kind of like found yourself that was like, okay, this is kind of working. I'm getting more work. I'm getting booked more. So you've gone like full force with it, and like now, to me, it was like if someone says, "Oh, who do you think does cosplay as a model?" Fonic's the first person I'm going to think of because one, I've worked with you and I've seen images you've done with other photographers. But then I'll look at, say, you did like an ice queen or a snow princess, snow queen.
Oh, I love that photo. Yes.
So again, it's something different. It's still like, for want of a better term, dressing up, but it's another thing that you can show. Well, yeah, well, I don't have to just put like cosplay ears on my head. I can do like more, say, fashion editorial style, but still in your way of doing it.
Yeah, I've been into like even at school I used to be into creative subjects like dancing, art, music, drama, graphic design, photography. I've done so much. And I used to love drawing so much. I feel like when you know who you are in your genre, I feel like you start to become more powerful, more confident, more like you know what's what now. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like photographers see how much I've grown and how much I've developed, and they know I'm so passionate about what I do. And I like pushing other models as well, because I feel models are very scared of coming out of the comfort zone, if that makes sense. They get scared of like doing something different. But I think if you do something different, I think that will set you apart, because then like I think it's just pushing that barrier. Like once that's broke, once that wall's knocked down, it's kind of like, oh my God, there's so many possibilities I can go into.
So do you see yourself when you're doing say modeling days at studios, if there's an option to add in remote slots, do you think that's something you would either approach the studio to do, or if they offered to say, look, we can throw in some remote slots, would that be something you'd look into now?
Oh, definitely. Like I prefer when studio wants me to do remote shoots, because then I don't like nagging. I'm not a person who nags. Like, oh, let's do remote shoots, some more remote shoots. I prefer when they want you and you can do it. I don't feel comfortable doing remote shoots like on my laptop. You know, it's not really the quality is really bad anyway. But yeah, when you're in the studio, everything's all prepared. Like even PGD studio, they've probably got the best remote technology, and I think that's what makes them unique as well.
Yeah, because I tried it and they've got it like on an arm thing, and you can control the lights and stuff. So
it's like you're watching TV. It does.
Yeah, but you're in the TV.
Yeah, then there's pressure on you. You know what I mean?
But like you said earlier, it opens you up to working with photographers that are in different time zones even, so they might not be able to travel. So say like you're shooting at PGD or Neon Dreams, and they say, oh yeah, we've got Fonic in, she's got a couple of remote slots. You're probably going to get to work with people that are, say, in the States or in Australia or something like that, whereas you might never cross paths with them if you were trying to do an in-person shoot, because your paths might not cross in real life.
Because I've worked with photographers on remote shoots like from Canada, Ireland and US. So it's kind of like, it's so handy. Definitely if you're a photographer, like you can just like go on the remote shoot, boom, done it. Like, hello. So
you mentioned that you didn't want to kind of do your own setup. Did you ever think of like doing your own remote setup? Do you have your own camera that if you ever did want to do it, you could? Because I'm guessing, looking at the stuff you've shot yourself, you've got the lights, you've got everything else, but do you have enough of a setup that you could do remote shoots at home or take it on the road with you if you wanted to?
If I had, because I am trying to get a new camera, a Canon camera now, because I've got my Fujifilm. That's the sensors broke on it. Right. I've got a Sony camera. I'm still getting used to the Sony camera, because a photographer gave it me, and I was just like, right, and every camera is quite different to me. Definitely, like, you know, the aperture, the shutter speed. But yeah, like this Sony camera is a bit pixelated, and I'm like, why is it a bit pixelated? Right. I'm a bit confused.
Which one is
it? I don't know what it is, but I know it's the Sony. Like, I'm not really good. I'm not a Sony camera. I'm more of a Fujifilm, Nikon, Canon. So it is quite new to me having a Sony camera. But yeah, like, I don't know the actual, you know, the number.
Yeah. You mentioned a few times that you did photography. Do you think there will ever be a time when you might book on to remote as a photographer rather than a model and see what it's like from the other side?
I'm more of when it comes to my photographer, I'm more of a landscape. I'm not really a
Okay.
people. I think it's because with landscapes, I love historical, abandoned, like general. I love if like decades gone by, like a decade, like 10 years, for example, or 15 years, like you can look back, like look at the buildings so different, like where you used to live. Or I've always been into like history and science and just about like cultures. That's what I love personally.
Yeah, and it's more like you kind of pose in front of the camera, so you want to do something totally different with your photography.
Yeah, I think I have done people like portrait photography. Yeah. I love people in general. I'm a people person. I just love like communicating with people and just meeting new people or anything like that. But landscapes is probably my go-to if I'm doing photography. Yeah,
kind of gives you time to shut down and take your mind off the modelling.
It's very therapeutic, I would say, like take a photograph of buildings.
Yeah.
Definitely when they're like really like massive, like New York, gone to New York, and the images I've got is like, I just love big buildings or anything abandoned. But yeah, like people, because I do modelling and I talk to people anyway, sometimes it's just nice being like away from that and actually just think about have your own time.
Exactly, yeah. So now you've done a few remote shoots. What would you say to someone who hasn't tried out remote photo shoots as yet?
I would say I would definitely recommend it. It's not just you feeling comfortable one-on-one. You're actually challenging yourself to do a remote shoot, but also like it helps you to communicate with different photographers around the world, and I think that's what you need. But I feel like it's nice because it gives them an experience where you can look at yourself and look at the poses and see if it's like you're doing really well, or if it's right or if it's wrong, and then you can actually talk to photographers as well. I definitely recommend it. It's just something different. I think it's because I feel like everyone's so used to doing one-on-one, at a studio or at a location. Sometimes people do want to challenge and do want something different. It's just so they've got it in the portfolio, at CV, they've like, I've also done remote shoots as well, and people will look at that and like, oh my gosh, he's done a lot, or he's done a lot.
Do you, now you've shot with some photographers remotely, do you see that it's kind of broken the ice that if you get the chance to shoot with them in person, it will be like much easier because obviously you've worked with them, you've seen the results from some shoots, so it's kind of like you don't have to go through that first shoot of working with someone new because you've already done it as a remote?
Oh, definitely. Because then because some photographers on social media, you don't really see their photo.
Yeah.
You don't know who they are. So when you do remote shoots, and if they do come across seas to work with you, what they look like, they're professional, their intentions are pure. So it really helps feeling safe and feeling secure meeting them in person. Yeah.
So thanks for doing the podcast. Where can people find you on the socials and the internet?
So on Instagram, I'm Fonic Official. Facebook is Francesca Alexandria Walborn, and Purple Port Fonic Official.
But you've also got a link tree on your Instagram, so that literally links to almost everything you've done if people want to see your work and stuff. Yeah, so anything with magazine front covers to podcasts, because I've done a podcast before, music videos I've been in, and supporting Bang Bang Firecracker, who I've worked with. Thanks, Francesca, for doing the podcast, and hopefully we'll get to work with you again in the future. Thank you ever so much for having me. Seriously, I love this experience, and I feel so honoured that you want me to be a part of this. Thank you so much. Okay, Francesca, where did you get the... That's old... Okay, see, I've cocked up. There we go. There's
it's all right.
Oh, thanks. So you go by the model... right, let me just take a couple of sip of tea.
Oh, you're brilliant. I thought it was going to be me this time.
No, but I'll wait till you start tripping up, and then I'll start laughing at you. Okay.
Laughing at each other.
Yeah.
I remember when I was studying photography, because I used to study photography. Let me do that again.
Oh, look who's cocked up.
Here we go.
Right, so was it, no, so let's do this again. I know what I want to say, but I'm not putting the words in the right order. So thanks for doing the podcast. Where can people find you on the World Wide Web and the internet? No, I'm not going to use the World Wide Web. Come on. That's so 2000s. Like, jeez. Thanks, Francesca, a.k.a. Fonic Official, for doing the podcast. Okay, that sounded really forced. Jeez.
No.